we go. So welcome everyone to LiveFULLy on Monday, today's the 30th, right? Tomorrow's Halloween, right? Yeah. So super excited tonight about our topic and our guests. So first, I want to give you a little introduction to our guest, the infamous, beautiful, talented, adjective, Katie Neubaum. Katie is our guest tonight. She is the founder of Find Your Greatness. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how she did that and how that came about. Motivational speaker, health coach, singer, stage performer, world traveler, formerly intelligence analyst in the Army, which I didn't know for a long time until I think we actually roomed together in Tennessee at a retreat. I was like, what? I didn't know you were in the military. What did you do? So a mom, a friend, team leader. I call you a spiritual gangster because I just love how inspiring you are every single day. Man, your life is jam-packed with so much stuff. I don't even know how you get through the day. You got a lot of stuff going on. But the reason why I invited you is because you also have tackled maybe one of the most difficult challenges of your life in losing over 100 pounds. And for sure, you know, one of the most difficult challenges that a lot of the people in this group and people who will be listening to the recording, if they're not on tonight, are dealing with. And as well as, you know, some people that are on that actually are attempting to coach people that have 100, 200, 300 pounds to lose. And so I want to ask you some questions about your journey and find a little bit about, you know, how you got involved with Isagenix. But really, you know, this group, we talk so much about mindset and how key it is to be able to, you know, switch your mindset. And your story, oh my goodness, talk about, you know, changing your mindset. I mean, behaviors, you know, prior to losing the weight. And we're going to talk a little bit later in the call about BED, Binge Eating Disorder. We're going to talk about some of those symptoms, but I know that some of the things that we touch on is part of your story. So without further ado, I would love to just hand it over to you. And most of the people, I think everybody on here knows that I actually did have bariatric surgery in 2010 and gained about half the weight back before I found Isagenix. But you actually did not go under the knife, but you almost did. So maybe you can start with where you were at the time, you know, in your life before you found Isagenix, and talk a little bit about, you know, the whole idea of having surgery, not having surgery. How did that happen?
There I am. I had to unmute myself. So thank you, Chris, for having me on tonight. I wasn't expecting to drive, but it is nearing Halloween, and we got attacked downtown by a freak. So anyway, on to the subject. I'm grateful to be on your call tonight. And yeah, when I was getting introduced first to Isagenix, I was very overweight. I was working out hard, but I had no energy, and I was just at that point where I'd tried every diet that was out there, every fad diet, and nothing was really getting it done. And so Jennifer Trinkner, a really good friend of mine, she introduced me to Isagenix, and at the time I wasn't really open to it. I said, no way. This is just another fad diet, and it was expensive to me. I mean, I thought it was a lot to invest. Well, she kept coming back every month and asking how my program was going, because I still continued to try different things that were cheaper, to no avail. So I was scheduled to have the gastric bypass, and I said to Jen, well, why don't I just go ahead and get on the Isagenix for 30 days and see if I can get myself at least super healthy for the surgery, because I knew that was going to help my odds of coming out on the other side healthy and having a better recovery. and I was able to lose an enormous amount of weight that first month. It was 30 pounds to be exact, but not be exact. And I, by the third month, now I had pushed my surgery out. I said, let me see what happens if I stay on here another month. And within 3 months, I was down over 50 pounds. So that's where the isogenic journey began. Did you want me to keep going with that, Chris, or did you have another question about what happened once I got started past the 3 months? Or
I was just talking on mute, just talking away. Well, the first thing I want to do is take myself off mute. That's
great. Yeah.
You know what? So many people that I talk to, Katie, are just really struggling with making the change. And you know, we've talked with Morgan. She told us her story about like how long it took with personal development and, you know, starting and stopping the program, getting out, you know, you're successful and then you stop and then you get back to it and we try it again. I mean, for you to have such great results, you know, right off the bat, after, you know, having been carrying around so much extra weight for a lot of your life, like how did you do that? I mean, were you just, did a switch go off in your mind, or how did you stay? Did you use tools or books or mentors, or how?
Well, no, seriously, that's a very good question, because I was baffled as well, because every program I went on, first of all, I wouldn't usually stay on it more than 2 months. Usually it was like a 30-day run. And then I would get bored with it and I would go off. But the difference with isogenics is the level of energy that I had. I was so jacked up, not on like the regular like stimulants that or energy pills or anything that I had tried before, but this was true health from doing the cellular cleansing. I think that was the difference, was that I felt so great that there was no way that I would stop putting these products into my body. I did start working out kind of in month 2. The first month, the weight came off without even working out. I was just so heavy at that point. And my goal, like I said, was to get prepared for gastric bypass. I wasn't thinking long term. I was thinking short term. And so to stay on the products was easy because I felt so good. And anybody who is a mom or even just a worker or a student, we're so tired when we're eating all of this processed food and the diet drinks, and I just always just wanted a nap. So when my energy was now level 10, waking up in the morning, and I was like, man, I feel great. And it wasn't like something I fabricated. It was truly feeling that energy. That was definitely the biggest difference for me compared to the yo-yo dieting I was doing before.
We're going to talk a little bit later about, you know, binge eating disorder and what some of those symptoms are, because this is serious stuff. And, you know, I started thinking about after my gastric bypass and I started gaining weight back, that when I was reading about binge eating disorder, that I was like, God, this is really kind of the same as binge drinking, which is what I turned to when I couldn't use food. And so I started, you know, binge drinking. And then I started looking through, you know, some of the symptoms. And one of them that you and I have talked about before is eating alone, eating quickly. You know, you might eat normally in front of other people, but behind closed doors is kind of when you get down and start those really bad habits. Tell us, you know, for you personally, did you pick up weight over time? Did you find yourself in any of these situations as far as like, you know, binge eating or is eating in secret? Like, did you experience any of that?
I did. I mean, a lot before isogenics. So my go-to foods were Oreos and Doritos and Diet Coke. Always made it better. But I had a place that was between my kitchen counter and my refrigerator where my very oversized behind would squeeze in there. But it was like kind of like a security blanket to stuff myself in that corner, because even though the family was asleep, it was like a good, nice little nook, little hiding place where no one could see me. And I would just eat. And it was like my goal was to at least eat a row of Oreos. And I would, for some reason, Oreos and Doritos tasted good together, which now kind of grosses me out. Like, what in the world was I doing? And then I definitely ate a lot of supersized meals from McDonald's and Burger King and wherever. And I definitely was never satisfied. I always felt hungry shortly after stuffing that stuff in my face. And during my isogenics journey, mentally and emotionally, sometimes I would feel like leaning towards those behaviors again. But just to keep it real and to be honest, I was not always overweight. So it was not a lifelong journey. It was a very depressed marriage that I wasn't happy. So I did crazy things. Like I cut all my hair off. I shaved my head and just left like the middle of my head. And knowing that that was something that would hurt me. So I was in a mode. So for people that are watching that have maybe struggled with their weight loss their whole life, I just want to keep it real. I had 3 children, a sad marriage, and there may be people on the call that relate to that, just being unhappy and turning to binge eating and food. So that was more, and isogenics, the reason it was so easy for me, Chris, was that I had such an amazing support system. You and Casey and Jennifer and Bridget and just all of the friends in the company that had, even if we didn't all have weight loss to lose, we had similar things were not great. And now we want to help the new person to find their way. And that's what we do now, is we help other people to really, it's not about admitting what your problem is. It's about realizing that everybody's got something going on, and isogenics offers so many solutions to make those, not necessarily make the problems disappear, but my cravings did disappear. That was huge. I did not crave Oreos or Doritos. I did not crave Diet Coke. I didn't crave McDonald's. And every time I would start to feel that craving come on, I knew it was time for a cellular cleanse.
Yeah. Well, and I want to talk about Overeaters Anonymous really quick, because the reason why I brought up, my personal, the part of my journey that had to deal with alcoholism, it was right when I started isogenics. And so they actually kind of went hand in hand with regard to, mindset, changing, your behaviors, your mind, like understanding what it is. And there is a line. I mean, we coach people, for a living, and we help people with tools and resources, but binge eating is a medical disorder. I mean,
yeah,
there is a line where, if you're reading through and you're saying, checking off the list. I remember when I thought that I was drinking too much. I obviously knew I was eating too much when I was 100 pounds overweight, right? Like that was obvious. But then it was like, wow, I wonder if I'm an alcoholic. And I went online and I took this test, started checking things off of like, yes, yes, yes. Like, I wonder how many of these apply. And when I went through, 10 of the symptoms for binge eating disorder, it's like, if you're checking yes, 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 isogenics is incredible. You can have the best coach ever, but emotionally, something's got to be addressed. And that, this group from the very beginning, we've been very serious about keeping it real. There's like nothing that's off the table. You can be safe here. You can, talk about whatever you want to talk about, because this stuff is real. Emotionally, you just talked about what was happening in your marriage, like that was causing you to overeat. And there, some people are dealing with years and years. Personally, I was severely overweight for close to 20 years.
Yes.
So to not address that emotional, those underlying issues, is really, kind of an uphill battle, even with the best nutrition. You see people lose and then, gain it right back. What have you done? I mean, I have just watched you blossom, and I mean, just through Isogenics, the confidence that you have, your ability to motivate people and encourage. And I mean, that's got to come from somewhere that's very different from depressed, I'm going to shave my head to punish myself, severely overweight. It's like, how do you get from from that place, that lonely place, to where you are now?
So it was like the sleeping giant underneath the layers of fat and depression and all that stuff that I was in. I had a very powerful upbringing with a lot of positivity. I served the military. My foundation for being strong was there. But in that self-sabotage position where I had no confidence in myself anymore, I had actually given away all of my smaller clothes, where people usually give away their bigger clothes, because I said I will never wear those again. There's no way I can ever be a size 12 or 10 or 9 or 8 or whatever. It was never going to happen. So I was in definitely the rock bottom place in my life. As for someone who had a glorious childhood, college career, operatic career, the good life, to get to where I was a pretty sad place to be. And when I started tapping into the positivity that I already knew, I was raised by a Dale Carnegie teacher. So when I started reading the books again and identifying that she was still in there, that fighter, the competitor, the I'm never going to be, no one's going to beat me kind of thing. And I woke the giant. And Isogenics did that with helping me have the energy and the clarity. And then I did a lot of work. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of personal growth and development. I'm always reading a new book. There's not a time where I don't have an audio book going as I'm going to sleep. Usually when I'm waking up, I do meditation. And in my meditations, I'm sitting still and allowing my higher self, whatever your belief is. But for me, I just know that we're all energetically connected and that the answers are all within. And the only way to access those is to be quiet. And it's takes quite a lot of, not really discipline. I don't want to use that word. It just takes patience with yourself to realize you're not going to be meditating like Gandhi and Buddha overnight, but just to relax into who you are as the great being that we are. And the positivity runs deep through my veins, but it was just, I couldn't feel it anymore. I became numb when I was that fat, and it was like everything hurt to move. Like rolling over in the bed was like a freaking, it was a process to roll over. I just remember that it took several to get my body over to the other side. And it's like almost a vague memory now, how in the world did I get there? But yeah, the power of taking time to grow and learn and be inspired by other inspired people is priceless for all aspects of your life.
I think that, we talk too in these Zooms a lot about self-love and compassion and, deserving to be in a healthy body. That it's not about depriving ourselves. It's not about, withholding. It's actually the opposite. We should be pouring love, into ourselves, to the point that, the reason why we're eating healthy, that we're, investing in Isogenics, is because we deserve it.
Right.
Because we've spent long enough overweight and miserable and depressed and unhealthy, being not nice to ourselves, right? Lacking that,
right,
that self-love. And so I'm curious. I mean, you coach a lot of people. You're a multi six-figure earner within the company, and you've been uber successful with Isogenics. How would you coach somebody? Like, where would you start with someone who's really trying or really struggling with that self-love? I mean, because to be honest, the weight, the extra pounds is really just the result, right? It's the
Mm-hmm.
result of something else that's happening. Like that's really the thing that needs to be addressed. The weight, the eating, the binge eating is all just, it's cause and effect. That's the effect.
Yeah.
Right? How would you start someone off that is really struggling, that says, how in the world am I going to lose 100 pounds? It's such a gigantic goal. We hear that all the time.
Yeah. The 100 pounds, I having been through the process, and you probably know this as well, and everyone probably feels much the same way, that saying I need to lose 100 pounds, or coming face to face with the fact that that's where it needs to be, it's better to allow yourself, give yourself permission to release 10 pounds, 2 pounds at a time, and celebrate every win, every pound, every ounce. And with gratitude, thank your body for releasing that weight. And I believe highly in journaling and keeping track of the feelings that I felt as I was experiencing this. But with regards to self-love, I definitely coach on this a lot, because I don't think that even losing 100 pounds or 200 pounds, or we even have people in the 400-pound club, if the self-love piece is missing, the weight is going to come back. And it might come back in another form, another addiction, another sabotaging behavior. But what I coach my associates to do is to stand in front of the mirror. And this is really hard. It actually made me cry a lot. And look at yourself and take moments to compliment yourself on the things that you do find beautiful. So even under the layers of fat that I was experiencing at that time, I could still see that I had beautiful eyes, I had beautiful teeth, that I had a good heart, that I had fingers that picked up things, and toes that carried my heavy body, and being grateful for those things. And then forcing myself, really, it was literally forcing myself to say positive affirmations. And I started small, like, I'm going to do one positive affirmation that I can accept about myself today. So the first one that I started with, and I cried many times trying to convince myself that I was beautiful, that's where I started, because I felt I can't start with I am worthy if I don't feel like I'm beautiful, because beauty is in many shapes and sizes. It's not about just the exterior. I knew that I had a beautiful, giving heart. I knew that I was a wonderful mother, a friend, a mentor, and I had to accept that and glorify, edify myself with confidence in order to go to the next level. But the positive affirmations in the mirror, even if they make you cry, something that enhances the rate at which you lose weight, the rate at which your self-love grows, and it's not something that can second to the program. To go and do the 30-day cleanse and fat burning system, you have to know that part of that journey is going to be self-love if you desire to be successful. I know and believe that 100%. So when I'm coaching my new people, it's not as much about how did today go? It's how are you feeling? What good happened today? Try not to just focus on whether they were able to stay on the program or not. Chances are, a lot of people that come on these programs, and they've been on many, many programs, and they're severely overweight, they're not sticking to it. That's difficult. Mentally, physically, spiritually, it's challenging and it's difficult. When I took the challenge on, I think because I already had the gastric bypass scheduled, that was my out. I did not cheat except 2 times I can remember. I told myself I would not drink Diet Coke anymore, but I was totally addicted. So I would eat Isodelights and a giant Diet Coke when I was watching a movie. But other than that, in the first 30 days, that was my big cheat. was Diet Coke, which doesn't have calories, but it's loaded with chemicals. And we know the effect of that. But self-love.
I love that you brought that up about the mirror work, because and I'm not sure if were you on the Zoom that we did. It was many months ago that I actually titled Mirror Mirror.
I don't think I saw that. That
Zoom, was really about like our perspective and what we see, and how that, our body is just a shell that our spirit is walking around in, and how judgmental we can be, every time we pass the mirror is, it looks like my thighs are a little bit bigger. Oh, I feel like my belly's jiggling a little, and really trying to notice all of that negative self-talk. Whereas what you're saying is, find the things that are beautiful, like that you love about yourself, and just, use that mirror. I know when I was, before my gastric bypass surgery, I could get ready for an entire night out and literally like put makeup on, get dressed, and never really look at myself at all. I mean, like it's so hard to explain, but I know there's a lot of people that are watching these Zooms that are like, agreeing, like, yes, I do that too. That I literally was like, I never look at myself. I put my clothes on. I don't look at what the clothes look like on me. I don't look at my face when I put my makeup on. It's like I just put it on. I don't want to be in photos. It's like that whole, I've not, done what you said, but I'm definitely gonna give it a shot, because like we just do go through those moments where, it's just difficult to find the positive things when there's so much, negative that has been going on in our brains for such a long time.
And Chris, there's also another exercise that is that's dear to me, because it really changed my perspective of the world, of humanity, and of all living beings. And I've referenced it before. Anyone that already follows me knows that the circle of fire, where when you look someone else's eyes, or you admire a beautiful flower or a tree. But let's stick with humanity right now. When you first see a person, it's in nature to judge. And that which you judge first, may it be the eyes, the shape, their attitude, their positive energy, the way they're dressing, the first thing that you're judging is your reflection of you. So it's an eye-opening experience to be able to, when the quote says, stop and smell the roses. That's what I think about when I finally understood this, is when I see someone that is beautiful, or I see a person that I feel at that moment is less than. I know I have work to do. And I make note of that, and I say, okay, I noticed today in that person that I spent time with, what is it about me that is allowing that judgment? It's the only way to really get to the bottom of what your hang-ups are, is to start taking notes on what you see in the things that you're seeing every day. So that's a very powerful thing. Circle of Ruiz. It's Ruiz, right? Or Don? Yeah, it's
Miguel Ruiz.
It's Ruiz.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the same guy. Is it Don or is Ruiz? Okay, same guy. Yeah, I'm not a woman of details necessarily, but I'm yellow. Chris knows this. You're red.
Yellow.
That's your job. That's your job to post the title in the office. But, I mean, you've read, right? Have you read that book?
I can't. You broke up a little bit.
Have you read that book, Chris?
I've read some of The Circle of Fire. The first time I picked it up, I don't know if I wasn't ready for it. Sometimes you pick up a book and it just doesn't quite resonate with you. And then I picked it up again and kind of gave it a second shot. So I've read some of it. I can't say that I've read it cover to cover.
If you haven't, this book is very special. So if you got it in your hands and you didn't finish reading it, you weren't ready. So Casey gave me this book to read 3 years before I read it. I wasn't ready. And one day I was cleaning my room and the book literally jumped off the shelf. And I've heard this happen with Lenny. I think it did also happen with Casey. So when your Circle of Fire book jumps off the shelf, sorry, I'm trying to get in the house to make sure I don't break up anymore. That's when it's time to read. That's like one of those mystical, magical experiences to read that. But it's still an exercise that whether you read the book or not, that you can start paying attention to how you're seeing other people and make note of it. Whether it's beautiful or horrible, it's a reflection of you. And that to me is eye-opening. Like, why am I seeing that?
Yeah. It's so funny how that can happen, that you've got like a book that absolutely blows your mind. That's like, oh my God, it changed my life. You have to read it. And then somebody else picks it up and they're like, it was all right. You know, like you're just like not in the same place. And it was the same for me. It was like, when you've got to read this book, and I picked it up and I was like, hey, I don't know what all the fuss is about, but like, it's okay, but it's not like, you know, life changing to me.
Yeah, because when I tell the story, it's life changing because I was ready for that information.
Yeah.
And I cried so hard when I was reading that book because I realized it wasn't so much of being judgmental of other people. I was so destroying myself with all the judgment of others because I was actually judging myself. That's what it comes down to. So,
have you read Brene Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection?
Yes.
So we talk about that a lot, at least I do, because I think that book is just a must read for anyone who's dealing with any issues around worthiness, and compassion and self-love. I actually had a question written down to ask you anyway. I love to put resources back into the group for people of books, you know, motivational speakers, podcasts, anything that's helpful to kind of keep that mindset on track, because it's so easy, you know, to get started on a journey. You know, you're doing pretty well and then something happens, life happens, and you're derailed and off to the side. And it's all about like, if you can stay with that mindset, or you know, with either reading something or keeping your mind full of something that's positive and encouraging, uplifting, it just makes your probability of success so much higher, I think. What are some other ones besides the Circle of Fire that have really impacted, you know, your success and your journey?
So my two go-to items are the 101 Ways to Transform Your Life. Even now, when I get into a space of something that's going on in my life, there's a low moment, I will listen to that every single day, every day. And sometimes I will journal about it away. That's Dr. Wayne Dyer. It's phenomenal. It's literally speaking 101 ways to transform your life, to find your center, to understand the power that you have as a human being. It's just one of my favorites. And then when I'm needing that additional motivation, I just simply Google motivational videos, and I end up with all this, lots of Les Brown, and there's a few, like there's one called Unstoppable that I play a lot that really resonates with me. And if you're in a heavier body and you were an athlete before, watching athletes, how they're pouring sweat, they're at muscle failure, but they're not going to quit. And in those videos, it shows like soldiers who are missing limbs, but they're still racing, they're still working, they're still serving. So it makes you know, like, oh, what excuse do I really have? If that person is still going and moving and pushing forward, how can I stop? So it's extremely important. It's probably the most important part of your physical transformation is staying motivated, is staying aligned with your purpose on this earth. And the self-love centeredness it's just not negotiable if you desire to be successful, which right? No one would say I don't desire to be successful, but like you were saying, we just beat ourselves up. We say things to ourselves that we would never say to another person. But I find myself, I've outgrown that. Like I really love myself, and I love what I attract now, because we attract what we are. And the beautiful people that I'm surrounded with, that are in my tribe, in my life, even my children, their behavior problems have pretty much dissipated. Like they don't exist. So starts with you, starts with me. Um, you got to stop the blame game of it's him or it's her or it's the child that's making you do what you're doing. No one's making me eat those Oreos. It wasn't my ex-husband's fault that I got freaking like a linebacker size of NFL. It wasn't his fault, but it was easier to blame other people. So it's a big, I don't want to say that it's easy. Isogenics is easy. That part, putting the shakes into your body, taking the vitamins, taking the ionics, sticking to the program, for me, I think that's the easiest part of this. The personal growth is the part that's going to make you cry. It's going to rip your heart out a little bit. But if you truly want to be successful and you want to live a life of contribution and give back to the world, like you and I and many of us are able to do now because we got out of our own way, that's just, you can't have one without the other, in my opinion.
So true. I'm going to post actually these 10 symptoms in the group, just for, people that are not on right now, or maybe going back and look at the recording, but I'll put it in the actual, post with the recording. I just want to read them off right now, just because I think there's so much value from a coaching perspective, that even if you yourself have never been severely obese or dealt with compulsive overeating, to know what some of these things are, to recognize that sometimes you can coach someone on it and sometimes you can't. Right? Like there are some times that if there is a serious, a medical disorder going on, like my original plan, when I realized that I was like, oh, I think I'm an alcoholic. My original plan was, I'm going to create my own 30-day plan. I'm going to write out, I knew nothing about it. So I just thought I was going to have the solution. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to write down all these things that I'm going to do, and it's going to work. And then after 30 days, then I'm going to go back to like being normal again. And that was the plan. And I signed it. I mean, I had it numbered, and it was like, that was my plan. But it wasn't until that it's like, there's no one that can help you. There's sometimes you just need more help than what someone's able to give. And as health coaches, we do the best that we can. We provide resources, we provide tools, we provide love, and support and encouragement to people. But sometimes, if you're like, I'm 10 out of 10, you might need to look at an Overeaters Anonymous or something that's got that next level of support. We're not talking about an hour-a-week Zoom. We're talking about, these are some emotional issues that need to be addressed on a really regular basis. So I'll read them real quick, and then then I want to open it up to the group, and just see if anybody has any questions or anything that they want to share from their own journeys, or people that, you've coached. But the number one symptom for BED, binge eating disorder, is lack of control. So there's just no control over what you eat whatsoever. Number 2 is eating quickly. Number 3, it just said not bulimia. So you've got the binging part, you're just not purging. And I can remember in high school when I thought I was fat. I actually wasn't, but I thought I was. And I'm the kind of person that actually has to put my finger down my throat in order to throw up. And I used to wish that I could just go into the bathroom and purge. And so I know that feeling, that mind, chatter that goes on, that it's like after you've eaten something, and guilt is actually one of the things on here, that guilt that you feel after you've binge eaten and just wishing that it would come back out. Number 4 is overflow of emotions. So having guilt, depression, self-loathing, lack of, feeling like you have a lack of power over this disorder. I mean, guys, this is food. This is not something that's tackling you down, that's like twice your size. And I mean, like, this is the power of food, that really is an emotional cause, an emotional basis. Number 5, binge eating alone. So we talked a little bit about that. The Hermit, I've been doing some study on archetypes. And when you find yourself, I did the same thing, again, with drinking. I just kind of just didn't want to go out and be around anybody because I wanted my behavior to be in secret, that to be really private. Number 6 is having normal eating habits except for behind closed doors. Number 7, hiding food. Number 8, no set meal time. So basically, if there's food there, you're going to take it whenever you can get it.
Right.
Number 9 is obesity. And then number 10 is having other mental disorders. So loneliness, stress, anxiety. These are things that aren't just, oh, I'm a stress eater. I mean, this is something that you may need to actually be taking some medication for. Like, there are issues, with chemicals in your brain firing around that cause mental disorders that lead to obsessive and compulsive overeating. So really, I think there's a real fine line where we talk about, encouraging and supporting and loving people. But if you feel like you're saying yes, 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 or if you're coaching someone that you feel like is beyond just having trouble sticking to this new nutrition system, I'm a big proponent of saying, let's take a look at, maybe there's another organization to layer in, with my coaching. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a licensed therapist. Right. So, I can coach, I can give you my experience and coach from what I've been through. But at the same time, I know a lot of people that are on medication for different mental disorders that lead to compulsive overeating. And that's a really serious thing. So on that note, I just want to open it up to the group, and really it's like whatever's on your guys' minds, whatever's on your hearts. If it's a question for Katie, I'll just open it up and you can just unmute yourself.
Well, I'll ask a question. I just want to, I'm obviously, you guys know, maybe some don't know that I'm a personal trainer, but how, Katie, and do you approach people who need to lose that much weight? I mean, obviously you have a story to say, I have a picture, but what do you tell anybody else who are approaching someone who is in the obese category? Like, what do you say to them?
Well, that's a very good question. It is a challenge, but if you're thinking about before you approach that person, you're saying to yourself, I'm giving love. I'm going to offer help to this person that I can see in his or her eyes that they're suffering, and I have a solution that can help them. And you have to be detached from the outcome. They might slap you. They might be really embarrassed that you even approach them. They might tell you to get out of their face. But if you prepare yourself knowing that that your intentions are good, and you know that you have a solution to offer them, the first thing that I say is, how are you today? And I introduce myself so there's not just like they're total strangers. And then let's just assume that I was not a weight loss, a person that did have a story. I might say, listen, I'm a part of an organization of people who really have a great desire to help other people with their becoming physically free from not, you can say it however you want. There has to be an opener, and it does change for me because I just try to read what's the best way to approach this person? Because some people, as you know, when you see them, they look more approachable. They're smiling at you already, so they're not totally closed down. But a little bit of small talk to open it. I mean, that's how I do it through social media too, to ask a question that's not about isogenics. And then actually stating your intention and your reason, the reason that you approach them. The reason, and after this is, of course, after introducing myself, the reason I approached you is because I was in a much larger body a couple of years ago. And I was struggling, and I was really feeling bad about myself. And I don't know if you're open to speaking with me, but I would love to tell you my story and just see if there's something I can do maybe to help you today. And then just be quiet. The person that, like you, that's a trainer, is, you could say, the reason I approached you today is because I work with a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people who have struggled with not being at their optimal health. I leave the word weight out of it. Not being at their optimal health, feeling terrible. And it's my privilege and honor to help other people find that healthy body again. Are you open to me telling you my story to see if perhaps I can help you today? So, worst case scenario, you ask yourself, what's the worst thing that can happen? You get punched in the nose, but I don't see it happening. I have had someone tell me, how dare you talk to me about that? Or who do you think you are? But remember, being detached from the outcome is the key ingredient to being successful at approaching people that you know need your help. May it be financial, energetically, they look like they're about to fall asleep. They've got their kids around their feet, which may be impossible to talk to them. And that's why business cards are good, or getting their Facebook information. Say, look, I see that you're just not to get into your business, but I see that you're doing the best that you can, and these kids are overwhelming you, but I'd love to connect with you later. Now, this would not happen if there wasn't some kind of eye contact and some type of communication. I'm not just going to walk up to a stranger without some kind of dialogue, but I have totally seen the very overweight person sitting on a bench in the mall and went and sat right beside them and started talking. So
there's so much goodness in that, Katie, and I just have to piggyback on a couple of things. I don't know if you saw it this Super Saturday in Columbia when Jeff Beebe approached the lady in the hallway. That was at a completely different conference. She wasn't there for the Isogenics Super Saturday, but she was, very overweight. And he didn't know her, to my knowledge. I don't even know if he even had talked to her at all, literally just went up and introduced himself, and basically the first step from what I've asked him, because I used to be like, oh my God, aren't you afraid of hurting someone's feelings? And when you're more concerned about saving someone's life than hurting their feelings, then it's like that come into them with love and from the heart, this is what I've dedicated my life to doing. So not only have I been through it, myself, and you haven't, Adam, again, so you would have to tailor that part, but this is what I do. This is what I'm passionate about. And I used to be really in a struggle myself. And if you're open, would you be, and I heard, Katie, I heard you say those words, would you be open to hearing more about what I do, to hearing more about, the products that have me feeling and looking better, than I did, 2 years ago, that these products have literally saved my health, saved my life. And if they say no, it's like, okay. And you're detached, and it's like, okay, you tried. But, if they say yes, to be able to potentially have saved someone's life. I mean, you don't know if they're diabetic, if they're on blood pressure medication, if they're, what the full health situation is. And so for me, when someone was like, well, aren't you afraid of what somebody's going to say if you approach them? And I'm like, I'm more afraid of them dying.
Yeah.
When I was 100 pounds overweight and my doctor was like, Chris, do you want to lose this weight or do you want to die early? Pick one. And it was like, geez, like, well, I mean, like, I didn't think it was that serious. And he's like, yeah, like, it's that serious. So I just wanted to add that because I know that, you know, Jeff is very, some people think he's blunt, you know, but at the same time, he's very direct and stating that intention. Like, there's no, what is there to be around the bush about? This is something that, like, we have expertise, we have experience, you know, behind it. And this is what we do, what we're passionate about for a living. So if it can help you, great.
Yeah, and with regards to you, Adam, and Jeff Beebe, as you know, is a ripped bodybuilder type. So he walked right up to that lady. I actually had come out 2 or 3 minutes after he approached her, and he invited me over to introduce me and tell my story. So the whole thing with the way that he approached her was just like you're saying. It was out of love and compassion. I'd rather see you hate my guts than see you die and go one more day feeling this way about yourself and in an uncomfortable body. And people that say that they're comfortable in that body, they're not being honest with themselves. I know they glamorize the plus size thing these days, and they make it easy by having cool clothes to wear and things like that. But the truth is our bodies were not designed to carry that amount of weight. So when you're going through gastric bypass or when you are morbidly obese, they call them comorbidities for a reason, because it's caused the side effects of being morbidly obese are, you know, there's a whole list of them. And I had like 10 things going on with my body that were caused by me being that overweight. And that is serious. And my doctor said the same thing to me, which you're going to die if you don't have the surgery or find a solution. And I was like, really? And he said, really, look at your numbers, your cholesterol, your blood pressure. And I had already had a stroke. So it was the real deal where I was. And we never say that isogenics claims or cures anything. It doesn't. It's your beautiful, miraculous body getting balanced and healthy. And that's where the healing comes in. But isogenics is a perfect vehicle to provide the nutrition that your body is literally craving and begging you to feed it. So good.
Yeah, and I think sending the info too allows, I mean, like, there's definitely, like, I know personally if someone approached me, there would be some level of embarrassment there. Like the fact that someone had to approach me about, you know, health products and being overweight, if I, you know, hadn't gone through personal development and like had gotten some confidence. But I think someone offering to actually just could I send you some information? Would it be okay? I think that takes a lot of the pressure off of having to have a conversation right then and there of like, I would love to just connect with you and send you some information. And it's like, I just don't know that many people that would say, no, I absolutely do not want to connect with you. You know, like whether.
It's a much lighter, easier way to do is to create a sense of urgency that you're in a hurry, but that you noticed this, right? So that's what I do a lot of times in order to get my appointment set, is create the sense that I'm here to get my size 10 or size 8, whatever. I'm celebrating this weight loss. I don't have time to tell you the story now, but just give me let's connect right now on Facebook, and I'll message you later. And then you can decide if you want to be, join my coaching page or learn more about what I'm doing. But just always being excited about being you, being in the present moment, and radiating that high vibrational frequency from you to all the people around you. You'll be surprised at how people respond. When you're in a good mindset, you could be telling them horrible news or asking them very personal questions. But when you come with that vibrant energy, it's really hard for people to shut you down, shut you out, or tell you no.
Yeah, and you always come from the heart anyway, Adam, so.
Yeah.
You always do. What about, is anybody else? I know we're coming up on time here, but does anybody else have any questions for Katie or any comments about binge eating? coaching any people that are, you feel like are just kind of dealing with some issues that might be going a little beyond, you know, what you're comfortable with as far as coaching? Nope. Okay. Well, guys, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight. And again, I'm going to post these 10 symptoms of binge eating disorder, and, you know, write a little bit about that in, like, with the recording. So if you know of anybody that you feel like you really might be dealing with these issues to a greater degree, you know, than what you're used to, you know, you might want to really look through. I'll attach an article, or maybe upload an article to the files, to be able to, you know, really have an honest heart to heart. Because I definitely know I've coached some people that I've felt like I've given them everything that I can with regard to love, support, encouragement, resources, books, podcast tools, and there's still an overwhelming sense of a lack of control. I can't do this. I don't know why I just can't. And like, that's where you might have to step in and say, you know, I mean, Overeaters Anonymous exists for a reason. There are a whole lot of people that don't have that ability to control. Right. You know, there's, you know, 10 of these symptoms. Where are you? How many of these do you think you have? Be honest with you know, with the people you're coaching, or if it's you, like, be honest with yourself. Because, you know, like Katie said, until that mindset is switched and worked on, the weight's going to come back. And so what good is it, right, to lose it and then just have it come back? So, with that, Katie Neubaum, thank you so much for guesting with us tonight and sharing your story and your wisdom. And we love you, and you mean so much to this Have It All family and Isagenix in general. So thank you so much.
You're welcome, girl. I love you.
Love you too. And thank you everybody else for joining. Please feel free to tag people in this video once it's posted, and invite people for next Monday. 8 o'clock.
Yay.
All right, guys. Have a good rest of the night.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.